Yo, so guys, welcome back to another reaction, and this is a reaction to top 10 reasons not to move to the USA. This is going to be a controversial one. Yeah, I just saw this pop up, and this is from a channel that I feel like I've seen before. I don't know, but I think I have. And yeah, I just thought it was an interesting title. Maybe it will get people watching the video and disagree or whatever, but it will cause a discussion in the comments. I'm just here to see and sort of understand and maybe compare it to how it is in the UK, because maybe it's sort of like, okay, so this is how it is in the US, but it's the same in the UK. Maybe it's just a general thing. But we're going to check this out. Hopefully you're going to enjoy. Links are in the description. Links are in the description for my new channel. If you want to subscribe to that. Lots of new different styles of content will be on there. Completely different to this channel. Same for my Patreon. Links are there for those who want to see extra reactions that get blocked on YouTube, like Super Bowl halftime shows, comedians that can't be posted to YouTube, all this kind of stuff, plus other things. Yeah, the links are there, but we're going to jump into this. Hopefully going to enjoy, and yeah, let's check it out.
Do you live in the US of A?
Oh, God. Don't say he's one of these annoying talkers, man. Do you live in the US? Why is he already bursting my eardrum?
Well, according to my YouTube analytics, there's a 72.5% chance you'd answer yes. But if your answer's no, and you've ever pondered whether fireworks, hot dogs, and getting a bald eagle tattoo sound like a good time, call me a demolition crew, cause I'm about to break it down for ya. I came in like a wrecking ball. Ouch! Wait, seriously? That's what
Bruh, Tiger King's a legend, man. I mean, he's not actually a legend, is he? But the show's good.
we're left with? An American flag, Tiger King, and are those huge toilet stall gaps? Remind me why we're like the only country that has those again. Well, it's because we've also got this thing called American innovation. It's no wonder we have by far the best economy in the world, and so many incredible things were invented here. The American dream has stood as a beacon of hope for people far and wide, with over 200 different nationalities calling the US home. But while that diversity and innovation, combined with gorgeous landscapes, make the United States a great place to live, that doesn't mean it's perfect. Find out why in my top 10 reasons not to move to the USA. And let's hit 5,000 likes if you want to see a video on the 10 best countries for 2022. Number 10, the car-dependent culture. Unless you live in New York, San Francisco, or the handful of other walkable...
This one is something I know about through previous videos, and it does kind of make sense. Like, if you, I mean, you've pretty much got to drive to like, sort of be able to travel to different places. Like, you can't really rely on transport and stuff. So that's either a good thing for people who drive or a very bad thing, because it makes it a lot easier for people who drive, because it's just like your routes, like it's focused on you getting from place to place. But if you don't drive,
cities with
like
good public transit, you're gonna need a car to live in the USA. Especially the further west you go, as most of the country lacks any real urban planning, and cities and towns are much more spread out. Now, if you've lived your entire life in the US, you might think this is normal, and it could even be a huge pro for you if you're someone who loves long drives on the open road. But it'll be a big culture shock if you're coming from a place in Europe or Asia where cities are very walkable and public transportation is phenomenal. And it is creating a problem here, considering the average American only takes around 5,000 steps a day, which is just half of what's recommended for a healthy life.
Is he talking about the 10,000 steps thing? I swear that wasn't even real. It was just like a marketing thing, just so they could like sell their watches and stuff. I swear that's not real. I mean, it's real, but it's not actually a legit thing. It's just sort of, again, a marketing tool. You don't need to do 10,000 steps to be healthy, guys.
Style. In fact, many people in sprawling cities like LA, Phoenix, or Houston, as well as most rural parts of the country, don't even walk at all. And it's not like they really need to, with drive-thrus for everything from food to banks to pharmacies.
Or takeaways.
Number 9, if you value your health. Considering that many Americans don't even walk, much less actively exercise, it should come as no surprise that 42.4% of US adults are obese, making it the 11th most obese nation in the world. And the severe lack of health...
Wait, are you telling me there's nations that have more obese people than not? 42% isn't the highest.
Adults are obese, making it the 11th, 42.4%.
What? So the most obese nation in the world probably is like 50%. Possibly.
of US adults are obese, making it the 11th most obese nation in the world. And the severe lack of healthy food options in most parts of the country certainly doesn't help. In fact, there's tons of foods Americans eat regularly that are actually illegal in many other countries due to all the chemical additives. But that's not all. Even if you're not stuck living in a food desert where all you have to eat is corn puffs and Cousin Willie's buttery explosion popcorn, you still aren't out of the proverbial woods because mental health is also a huge issue here. 18.1% of US adults suffer from severe anxiety, and 6.7% suffer from severe depression in a given year, making our depression rate the second highest of any country.
I think that's more due to the fact that people will get diagnosed with it. I think if you go to any country, the percentages of people that will be depressed or have those sorts of issues, anxiety, etc., it will be relatively similar. Maybe certain countries, like small island nations, may be a bit lower because you're by the ocean and maybe it just sort of makes you a bit, some chemical, whatever goes on, just makes it a bit like sort of less stressful for your whole life or whatever. But that might not even be true. But secondly, I think it is just due to diagnosis. Maybe more people just get diagnosed in the US, which could be seen as a good thing in terms of people being diagnosed with it, in comparison to like other countries where they won't be diagnosed. They'll just sort of feel the way they do, but not talk about. I don't know, but I don't know though.
Number 8. Healthcare. Poor health might be rampant in the US, but hey, at least there's quality healthcare to treat all the problems. Well, if you can afford it, because the US is the only industrialized nation to not offer universal healthcare for all of its residents. So every year, 20 to 45,000 people actually die just because they don't have health insurance. Not to mention how many Americans go broke from an unforeseen illness or injury. And you can't blame them. The average annual health insurance cost is nearly $7,500 for an individual and over $21,000 for a family. And even then, you still might have to pay out of pocket if the doctor or hospital that you go to is considered out of network. Pharmaceutical drugs and medicines also cost way more here than in other countries, so it's no wonder most Americans don't see a doctor until they absolutely have to, which often results in many minor issues that could have easily been prevented, turning into major issues that need extensive care.
Thing is, though, this is obviously horrible, and it's actually really sad to see this, because obviously in the UK you've always got the option to get free healthcare, but I'm telling you, the free healthcare here, it's not great unless you've got like a condition that they already know. They're not very, from my experience, they're not very good at diagnosing. Like I went to like 4 different doctors and they diagnosed me with different things. Like it's just sort of like, where's the consistency? Where can I actually know what's happening here? And it's just, I mean, again, if you've got certain, like if you've got like, let's just say you've got cancer, then the free healthcare is very flipping good because you have doctors supporting you, you'll get the medications and the proper the proper treatment, etc. Or like you need open heart surgery, you'll get the surgery for free. Obviously you pay taxes, but you'll get it for free, which is obviously a very good thing. So in terms of like the surgeries and stuff like that, it's incredible. But I feel like in terms of like, diagnoses or like I don't know, it's not very good. Like it's not great for a lot of people unless you've got to really like just lie about how bad it actually is, so they try and do stuff. Because if you tell the truth of how you're feeling, bro, they're not gonna do shit, man. They're not gonna do shit.
Number 7, it's expensive. Healthcare costs are just one of the many things that make the US the 11th most expensive country in the world. Although, to be fair, at least it also does have the 3rd highest purchasing power index, since wages are pretty high too. And they better be, because median rent costs in the US are the 7th most expensive globally, with the median renter spending 31.1% of their income on rent. And poor renters, or those in the bottom 20% of incomes, spend nearly 75% of their income on rent. Now, if you're coming from Europe or Canada, you might find the cost of living as a whole to be about on par or even slightly lower. But compared to most of the world, the US's cost of living is through the roof, especially when you realize sales taxes aren't included on the price tag of products, and you have to tip an extra 15 to 25% at restaurants. Number 6, low wages and high poverty.
Did you just say?
You mean low?
Didn't you just say the wages are high?
Wages. You just said America has high wages and a great economy. And yeah, it does. With the 9th highest nominal GDP per capita at $68,300. But that doesn't mean many people aren't struggling, as there's also a huge division of wealth. If you can't manage to snag an actual good paying job,
that's everywhere, man. You sort of have these average wages or whatever made so much higher because of the people that, who earn a lot more money. It sort of levels it out to make it seem like it's this, but it's actually a lot lower. That's just the thing. I think in a lot of countries, it will look like that, but then in reality, the people who are really, really rich will sort of make up the percentage kind of thing.
Unlikely to make ends meet, because with a federal minimum wage of just $7.25 an hour, or around $15,000 a year, the US only has the 17th highest minimum income among industrialized nations, despite having by far the best economy in the world. And sure, most workers here do make more than minimum wage, but 48 million of them still make less than $15 an hour, which in a lot of states still isn't enough to get by. Not to mention,
$15 an hour sounds legit. That's what, 11, 12 pounds? Mate, I think that sounds proper legit. I'm not gonna lie.
Americans are also intentionally underemployed, so employers don't have to pay them benefits. I mean, the US being the only country other than Papua New Guinea and 5 small Pacific Island nations to not require paid family leave should show you how little this country cares about its workers. As a result, our international poverty rate is 17.8%, with an even higher rate of childhood poverty at 20.9%. Number 5. It's dangerous. Do you know what high poverty usually leads to? Crime. So it shouldn't be a surprise that the US is more dangerous than any other industrialized nation and the 36th most dangerous country overall. The crime rate is nearly triple that of most of Europe, and the homicide rate is over 10 times that of Europe. Now sure, it's not like you need to worry about being shot in broad daylight in most parts of the country, as the US isn't nearly as dangerous as a place like El Salvador, but there are many US cities that are among the most dangerous in the world, such as St. Louis, whose murder rate of 88 people per 100,000 is nearly double El Salvador's rate, and El Salvador is by far the most dangerous country. Number 4, education. Education in the US isn't like in most European countries where the quality of schooling is great regardless of where.
I mean, I don't do Europe justice here because I'm not great with education either, as I come across in a lot of videos. I'm quite slow.
Where you live. It's a lot more like your 3 times divorced, pansexual, non-monogamous Aunt Tilda's relationship. Complicated. Many Americans actually choose where they're gonna live based solely on school districts. Because one town might have amazing schools, while the next city over has terrible funding and a student-to-teacher ratio of 40-1. Heck, there have even been cases of students graduating high school without knowing how to read. Needless to say, the American education system is a dilemma. But at least there are other options, such as homeschool, charter school, private school, Montessori school, or old school. But no matter what...
I don't think private... I mean, I'm not the one to speak, but I think you sort of need to... Not need to, but it's good to go to school and meet people. If you get homeschooled, obviously there's benefits of that. You probably won't get distracted as much. But part of the experience and part of the enjoyment is seeing your friends and stuff and making friends. So I mean, I don't know. I don't think I couldn't homeschool my children if I ever have children. No.
What school you choose, your kids will likely feel like they have to go to college, even if the job they want doesn't require it. Higher education is heavily ingrained in the American culture, with many parents thinking their children will end up failures if they don't go to university. So unlike many other countries that put just as much of an emphasis on trade school apprenticeships or working, a college degree seems to be the only thing that matters to many Americans. And no, it's not free, and no, it does not guarantee you'll get a good job. All it does guarantee is that you'll probably be in debt until you're at least 50, because the total US student loan debt of $1.75 trillion is growing 6 times faster than the nation's economy, with no signs of slowing down.
Oh my days.
Number 3. Geographic and ideational isolation. Many Americans think the US is the best country, while objectively, it just isn't. And many of those same people have never visited another country before. Heck, even when Americans do travel, many don't care to learn about new cultures or broaden their horizons, and instead opt to stay in resorts or English-speaking areas where the culture is similar to what they're familiar with. In a sense, Americans are some of the most closed-minded people, and they don't even know it. And if you're an American watching this and want to rage at that comment, you're kind of proving my point. Maybe it's because of its geographic isolation and how difficult and expensive it is to travel to countries other than Canada or Mexico, or perhaps the superiority complex that the US presents to the rest of the world. But nearly 30% of Americans have never left the country, and even more tend to have a very
fucking superiority complex or whatever, is it? That's just some people can't travel. You don't need to travel to other countries when you've got pretty much got different countries within a country in terms of like the terrains and stuff. I've never left. I have left the UK. I've never flown. I left once to go on a school trip, and that's it. So I mean, I can't really speak. I just got lucky that my parents actually paid for it, because if I hadn't have went there, I'd have literally been in the UK my whole life. So I mean, it is what it is. Some people just can't travel. There's nothing really more to it, to be honest.
Individualistic and closed mindset. As a result, many US residents feel alone and don't have a sense of community, which is another reason for our high depression rates and can be a huge culture shock if you're coming from a country where an emphasis is put on family and caring about the collective. Number 2, the country is very divided. Speaking of closed-mindedness, the two-party political system has really done us.
Like the UK, man. I feel like the UK is the most similar sort of to the US in terms of politics. Like, you're either one way or the other, and that's pretty much it. There's pretty much no in between.
Dirty. I mean, there's a reason few industrialized nations have it, because you can hardly get anything done. And our politicians and the reactionary media just seem to want to distract and divide us, separating the public into either Team Red or Team Blue. When in actuality, there's nuance to everything, and most Americans would probably agree on many of the same goals if labels weren't attached, and people could just have open and honest conversations.
Isn't it weird how it's sort of like their teams? Like you pick one team or the other. It's just wild, man. Politics is a whole nother thing, man. I don't like getting into it. It just drives me crazy.
Attacking each other. But that probably isn't going to be happening anytime soon, as more and more people just stay in their echo chambers and refuse to even listen to what someone with a different viewpoint has to say. Between the ever-increasing classism and continuously polarizing government agendas, the divisiveness of the social and political atmosphere in our nation is the worst it's been since the Civil War. When states were so divided, they literally left the country. Speaking of which, Canada is actually preparing for us to have another civil war. Now, before we get to number 1, make sure you leave a like. Also, check out my
Canada, man.
Number 1. It's very difficult to immigrate here. If everything on this list so far doesn't in the slightest way concern you, and you're like, sign me up, yeah, the US still sounds awesome! Well, I hate to break it to you, but you probably won't be able to move here.
I think even now this is showing, I think, isn't the UK still harder now because of Brexit and all this kind of stuff? It's like, it's pretty much impossible to move here. Like, my girlfriend nearly got kicked out of this country. She's lived here for 5 years. She luckily didn't get kicked out because she was accepted after 8 months of waiting for a response. And if we had to wait another 2 months, she would have been kicked out. And I mean, it just blows my mind that how you can kick out someone who's went through the school system and then has been there for years after, has went to college, all this kind of stuff, was working at the time, paying her taxes, and you're going to kick them out? And I know many people were kicked out. We were the lucky ones. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it makes it harder than the US or not, but I know Brexit has made it insanely hard in many aspects of life here, so I'm just wondering whether it's similar to the US or if it's actually worse here.
Because while the US does have the most foreign-born residents by far, accounting for nearly 20% of all immigrants in the world, they're also just a select few of the hundreds of millions of applicants. To even have a shot at meeting the immigration requirements, you'll need to either marry an American citizen, be in a...
Is that called getting the black card or the yellow... Is it black card? I swear it's... what's that show, TLC? I watched one of the episodes with that small guy who married that... Or not married. Who was with that... The girl from... I can't remember. Ed. Was his name Ed? Small Ed or something. And like she was just trying to get the black card. I swear that show is just about girls trying to get the black card. It's just wild. Or guys trying to get the black card, meeting the American girls. That show's wild, man. I might do some reactions to it on my Patreon. That's a crazy ass show.
Award-winning writer, scientist, or tech mogul. Be a skilled worker not born in India or China. And if you are born in India, China, the Philippines, or Mexico, be prepared to wait in line for at least a few decades. Or you could be a refugee, although 75% of asylum seekers are still denied. This is honestly the biggest reason why people who want to move here don't. It's a ton of work, requires a lot of time and money, and there's no guarantee you'll even be allowed in.
Man, interesting video. Keep up the good work with these videos, man. This could also be top 10 reasons why you should move out of the US. I wonder if he does a video, top 10 reasons why you should move, to sort of see that. I'm actually going to read this one. So, car dependency, very valid. As someone who enjoys biking and has done 100 kilometers at a time, the US is not pedestrian friendly and it's very difficult to get around without a car. 9. If you value your health, half and half in my book. Americans aren't unhealthy because they're forced to be. If you want to be healthy, it's no less difficult to do so. That's what I'm saying, man. Though you might want to check labels. That's a very good point. Like, you obviously have all these food options and like these things that will make you unhealthy, but I still feel like, for me personally, I'd still have the willpower to not, because the UK is quite similar. It's got a lot of fast food chains. You've got a lot of unhealthy foods here. Again, I think the UK and the US, other than Canada and the US, and maybe like Mexico and the US in certain aspects, we're very similar, like in terms of the food selections and like the sort of opportunities. So I feel like I can sort of compare to that, and I feel like I would be good. Healthcare, very valid. Healthcare, US extremely expensive. All I can add there is spend money wisely if you want guaranteed good healthcare. Expensive, not sure where he found this data on. Low wages, high poverty. Dangerous, valid compared to most highly developed countries. The US has a high violent crime rate. But yeah, interesting video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Hopefully for God's sake. Hopefully you didn't get too offended. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, peace.